Alright guys, so I got one more video I want to make today. As you know, I prefer big picture stuff, right? I prefer to look at the wider, more universal ideas and then filter them down to something more specific. Like I just did with the video on the forest fires in Australia. But today, this video I want to talk about something that's also big picture, but I want to talk about it differently than you've ever heard before, because I want to tell you some truth. I want to throw a truth out there, and then I'll explain it, and then you can think about it, and you can get back with me, and we can discuss it, or you can take it to your friends, you can take it to your family. But I want to give you one idea that's thought of totally and completely wrongly, and I actually want to turn it around for you. Okay? I want to talk about marriage. Now, the traditional idea is that marriage is for women. It gives them a place of security, a place where they can raise their kids, it gives them freedom from violence, etc., etc. But that's not true. I want to tell you this. Marriage was designed for men. You heard me. Marriage was designed for men. And I'll give you the 4 reasons why. Okay? The first one is, well, let's start here. Before I give you the 4 reasons, let's go back and look at how I can say that marriage is for men. And I'll put a link to this down below. But some of the earliest, oldest artworks you find, even in Europe, and that's the link I'll add, is of pregnant women. Because early man didn't really, these early settlers and humans in Europe and these other places, they seemed to treat pregnancy like magic, right? And so they treated these women like they were so valuable, and they were worshipped. They actually made little idols of them. The first things, some of the first art they made were these idols of pregnant women. Because of the value of offspring, the value of the children. The children had high value. Okay? So these women were revered. They were held up. They were catered to, even back then, as much as what you could. They were protected. They were provided for. Right? So women throughout history have always had this wall of men around. Protect, provide, keep them safe, keep them warm, keep them having children, allowing the children to grow up, not get eaten by a mountain lion or a saber-toothed tiger or whatever the case may be. So from the women's side, it's always been the same thing. They've always had this protection. So marriage is designed to give men 4 things, right? First of all, if a woman's going to have a right to a man's effort, his resources, his time, his energy, and don't make no mistake about it, if a woman has a flat tire and she pulls over beside the road, unless she's out in the middle of just BFE, nowhere, where there's just no other traffic, all she has to do is pop her trunk of her car, struggle with the tire a little bit, and someone will pull over and help her, almost universally. Maybe not quite universally, but pretty darn close, even still today. Okay, so she has this right to call on these resources, right? Welfare is a woman's right to call on men's resources. But marriage is designed to balance that out by saying, first of all, if I'm going to provide these resources to you, then the children I'm raising need to be mine. Right? That's the first thing, the first demand. And the second demand is that she's faithful to do these things, right? To actually raise the kids, to actually provide support, to actually do things that he can't do while he's away. To provide that complementary work, that effort, right? She has to be committed to it. Okay? And the third thing is it makes sure that she is doing what she can do. The important things that you just have to divide up. Right? And here's the thing. All these things need to be done. But if they're being done properly, they need to be done by the mother and father. We have these generations that are coming up that are half messed up because they were put into daycare. Why were they put into daycare? Because mom and dad both went to work. There's a whole lot of stuff that needed to happen in that household that was not getting done. That's why you put your children in daycares. Because you're not going to do a good chunk of the work that needs to be done in your home. You're not willing to do it. That's why women go to work and their children go to daycare. Now that's going to rub some people wrong, I'm fine, but that's the truth. If everything in the home was being done all day long, your children wouldn't have to leave it. Let me repeat that. If everything in your home was being done all day long, your children wouldn't have to leave it. So the children are yours. Your wife pitches in. Everything in the home's taken care of, and everything that the home needs is taken care of between the two parties. And it keeps peace in the society. Because when men and women start to cheat, that's where the drama comes in. And there's plenty of women and plenty of men who are addicted to that kind of drama. I've seen it all my life. I'm 56 years old. I've seen it all my life. There's plenty, a great big gob of men and women who live with that drama because they like the drama. I'm telling you now, straight up, that you can't save the world. Because there's a certain sliver of it. Like I said, there's like 10, 20% of the world. They're just not going to do what's right. They like that drama. They like their booze. They like their crack. They're not going to give it up. You have to understand this. But you have to hold the drama down. Because the drama is what gets people shot outside of bars. And you can't do that. I mean, you can live with a little bit of chaos in our society and other Western and Eastern civilization societies. They do. They have a little bit of it. We don't have a lot of it because you can't do a lot of it. Let's do a little math here. Let's say that you live in this little village and you go out and hunt. This is back in, it doesn't even have to be way back in time, just some little tribe that you're a part of instead of a major civilization, okay? You have to go out and hunt. Well, by the time you say that you're half of the village, you're 20 men, and then the other half's women, so you got about 20 women. And then you got your elderly who can't go out and hunt, and they help out a little bit around the village best they can, but you know, they might be crippled, they might have lost an arm or a leg, they're kind of limited in what they can provide. And then you have children. Well, by the time you're done with all that, you're not just going out and collecting as much food as you need to live on, but you're going to have to collect about 3 times as much as you need every single day. Right? You get the idea? By the time you add all these different groups up, the other half of the sex is the women, and then the elderly, the children, the crippled. You need to get and collect 3 times as much food as what you would need if you were just hunting for yourself. And you have to provide this. And it's the same today. That's what taxes are. I wouldn't care if welfare went away. I wouldn't care if a lot of government programs went away. They don't do me any good. I don't get any use out of them. But other people do. So because of that, I have to give a good 3 times, if not more, of my money over to the government in taxes than I would otherwise. And all these things do, all these things like marriage, all these things like men's rights and the issues that we look to fight over and look to have put into laws to give us some right is because we're putting in this 3 times. We're putting in this 3 times, but now we're not getting anything back for it. Now it's true that this is men's fault, not women's. It was the men who back in the 50s and 60s, thinking that they had it made, that they had defeated their real enemies, and that communism wasn't really an enemy, and it doesn't matter because we're gonna pin that against the wall anyway, which took another 20 years. But it was the men who pressed for no-fault divorce and who wanted to run off with the young chick and blah, blah, blah. Now here we are, and the whole thing's out of control. But it's men's fault. Make no mistake, this is all men's fault. If your fathers and your grandfathers hadn't effed it up, the world could be a totally different place today. But they did. They decided to believe their own press. Is really what it comes down to. The same thing it comes down to in any historical collapse. Do you believe your own press? It's hubris. It goes right back to Greek history, right back to what the Greeks taught about tragedy. One of the things that Greeks taught about tragedy was that drama's for suckers. Drama is for suckers. Do you hear me? Drama is for suckers. These guys that go out and they like living, and the women that like it, they're suckers. They're just the same as someone who's a drug addict. They're just, you know, they're just a mess, and you deal with it as best you can. But the problem we have today is that men still put in the 3 times. We still have the responsibility, but we don't have the authority. We no longer can order our world. We no longer can order our families. We no longer can direct anybody, even our own wives. I mean, look online at the 22 convention and all the crazy shit that's being said about that. Because if you're a man, you have no right to put any input. All you have to do is a right to surrender your resources. And this all goes away if marriage comes back the correct way. All of it just disappears. It disappears into the mists of time. But make no mistake about it. Make no mistake, no doubt. Trust me when I tell you that marriage was designed for the good of the man, not the woman. And with that, I'll see you tomorrow with another video or two.